Undercover black CEO insulted in her own showroom. What she does next shocks the entire staff. The showroom sparkled under Atlanta's midday sun, a cathedral of chrome and glass where luxury cars stood like silent idols. Aisha Coleman, CEO of Coleman Motors, slipped through the sliding doors, her face obscured by a baseball cap and sunglasses. She wasn't here as the boss today. She was undercover, a shadow among her own empire, testing the waters of her company's soul. At 38, Aisha had built Coleman Motors from a single lot to a national name, her black heritage a badge of pride in an industry dominated by pale faces and old money. But whispers of bias in her flagship showroom had reached her, and she needed to see it for herself. Dressed in a simple blazer and jeans, Aisha blended in, her presence unremarkable to the staff buzzing around. She lingered by a sleek convertible, running her fingers along its curves, when a salesman approached. His name tag read Brad, and his smile was as polished as the cars. "Nice ride, huh?" he said, leaning in. "But these babies are for serious buyers. You looking for something more budget-friendly?" His tone dripped with assumption, his eyes scanning her casual attire and dark skin. Aisha's jaw tightened, but she played along, her voice calm. "I'm just browsing. Tell me about this one." Brad's smile faltered, replaced by a condescending smirk. "Look, sweetheart, this is a high-end model. Maybe try the used lot down the street." The words landed like a slap, and Aisha felt the air shift. A few customers nearby glanced over, sensing the tension. She straightened, her gaze locking onto Brad's. "I'd like to speak with your manager," she said, her voice steady but laced with steel. Brad scoffed, crossing his arms. "Lady, you're wasting my time. We don't do charity tours here." The showroom grew quiet, the hum of conversation fading. A young receptionist, Maya, watched from her desk, her eyes wide. She'd only been at Coleman Motors for a month, a shy 22-year-old with dreams of climbing the corporate ladder. Something about Aisha's presence stirred her, a quiet dignity that clashed with Brad's arrogance. Maya hesitated, then stepped forward, her voice trembling. "Sir, maybe we should get Mr. Harris." Brad shot her a glare. "Stay out of it, kid." But Maya stood her ground, her small act of courage rippling through the room. Moments later, the manager, Harris, strutted out, his tie loose and his face flushed. "What's the problem here?" he barked, barely glancing at Aisha. Brad gestured toward her. "This lady's causing a scene, demanding to see cars she clearly can't afford." Harris sighed, turning to Aisha with a patronizing smile. "Ma'am, we're a busy dealership. Let's not make this difficult." Aisha removed her sunglasses, her eyes burning with quiet fury. "Difficult?" she repeated, her voice cutting through the silence. "You don't know who I am, do you?" The room held its breath. Harris frowned, confused, while Brad smirked, oblivious. Aisha's next words fell like a hammer. "I'm Aisha Coleman, your CEO." The revelation hit like a shockwave. Brad's face drained of color, his smirk vanishing. Harris froze, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Whispers erupted among the staff, phones slipping from their hands as they processed the truth. Maya's eyes widened, a mix of awe and fear flashing across her face. Aisha stepped forward, her presence commanding the room. "I built this company to break barriers, not build them," she said, her voice rising with emotion. "But today I walked in as a black woman, and you saw nothing but a stereotype. You judged me before I spoke a word." She turned to Brad, her gaze unflinching. "You're done here." Then to Harris. "And you? You let this poison fester under your watch. I'll deal with you later." The staff stood stunned, guilt and shame etched on their faces. But Aisha wasn't finished. She turned to the crowd, her voice softening but no less powerful. This isn't just about one man's ignorance. It's about a system that lets it thrive. I faced it my whole life, every boardroom, every deal. But I'm still here, and I'm not going anywhere. Her words hung in the air, heavy with truth. Then, in a move no one expected, she gestured to Maya. "You," she said, her tone warm. "What's your name?" Maya stammered. "Maya, ma'am." Aisha smiled. "You spoke up when no one else did. That's leadership. I want you in my office tomorrow." The twist sent a murmur through the room. Maya, the quiet receptionist, was now a symbol of hope, her small act of defiance elevated by Aisha's recognition. The staff exchanged glances, some inspired, others humbled. Aisha's final act was quieter but no less profound. She pulled a wooden clipboard from the desk, scribbling a note in bold ink. "Undercover CEO exposes prejudice in her own empire." She handed it to Maya. "Hang this somewhere everyone can see it. Let it remind them." As Aisha walked out, the showroom buzzed with a new energy. Brad was escorted out, his head bowed. Harris retreated to his office, his future uncertain. Maya clutched the clipboard, her heart racing with possibility. The customers, witnesses to it all, began to talk, their voices carrying the story beyond the showroom's walls. Aisha's actions had sparked something, a reckoning, a chance for change. In the days that followed, Coleman Motors underwent a transformation. Aisha launched mandatory training on bias, rooted in her own experiences. She promoted Maya to a junior management role, mentoring her personally. The clipboard hung in the showroom, a quiet testament to that day's truth. Sales didn't dip, they soared, as customers rallied behind Aisha's courage. Her story spread, not just as a tale of justice but as a call to action. Aisha knew the fight wasn't over. Prejudice ran deep, woven into the fabric of society. But she also knew hope was stronger. She'd seen it in Maya's eyes, in the customers' applause, in the staff's uneasy but earnest steps toward change. As she stood in her office, overlooking the city, she felt the weight of her journey, every insult, every triumph. She turned pain into power, and she'd do it again. What do you think? Was Aisha's response to prejudice in her showroom a step toward justice? Or does the deeper issue of systemic bias demand more than one bold act? Share your thoughts on where true change begins.